Enter into the communion of flowers. Enter with joyful hearts. Enter with reverent thoughts. It has taken long months beneath cold ground for these flowers to prepare their blooming. It has taken each of us long times of growth through sorrow and joy to prepare for our living now. The blooming season is short. The flowers stay only a brief time. We are travelers upon the earth, travelers through all too brief lifetimes. Therefore, let our moments be bountiful. Let us rejoice in our unique colors, aromas, and sounds. Let us celebrate together in love. That as we travel away, we take with us the memory of golden hours together among the flowers. As Unitarian Universalists, our roots are in the Judeo-Christian tradition, and we draw rituals and spiritual texts from all of the world's religions. This makes our faith rich and wide. At the same time, there are a handful of things that are uniquely Unitarian Universalist. Our 7 principles, our chalice, which we light each Sunday, and a ritual that was developed in the 1920s called flower communion. It is this ritual that we celebrate today. The flower communion was initiated by Norbert Čapek, who was also the founder of the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia. He saw the need to unite his diverse congregation who came to the Unitarian Church from varying Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish backgrounds. He wanted a ritual like the communion of bread and wine that would bring the community together and which would celebrate both the individual and collective beauty of his worshiping community. He wanted to hold up the beauty of humanity, but he did not want to alienate those who had left the Catholic Church or his Jewish congregants. So for the elements of the communion, he turned to the native beauty of their countryside and found there symbols that would be genuine to them all: flowers. During the ritual, congregants added their individual flower to a communal bouquet, and at the end of the service, took a different flower home with them. The ritual signified both the individual gifts that we bring to the altar and the added gift of what we take away when we open ourselves up to communion with others. The first flower communion was held in Prague on June 4th, 1923. Norbert's wife, Maya Čapek, was also ordained in 1926. It was she who brought the flower communion celebration to American congregations during her tour of the United States in 1940. Unfortunately, Maya was unable to return to Prague due to the outbreak of World War II. When the war ended, Maya and the world learned of Norbert Čapek's death in a Nazi concentration camp. When the Nazis took control of Prague in 1940, they found Dr. Čapek's gospel of the inherent worth and beauty of every human person to be, as Nazi court records show, too dangerous to the Reich for him to be allowed to live. Dr. Čapek was sent to Dachau, where he was killed the next year. This gentle man suffered a cruel death, but his message of human hope and decency lives on through his flower communion. Today we have brought flowers of all different kinds, grown in all different places, representing our unique identities and paths traveled. As we bring our flowers forward, May we celebrate the inherent worth, dignity, and beauty of every human person. May we lift up the memory of those who have risked all to remind us of our worth. And may we add our small piece of unique and divine beauty to the collective vases of this community. Later in the service, we will each receive a flower in return. But for now, let's see what collective beauty we can create when we all come together with our unique gifts and offer them to that which is greater than ourselves. I wasn't sure where to fit this in, but I just had to share with you that when I went out in my yard this morning to select my flower, I had to wait a few minutes as a hummingbird stuck its face in each of these blossoms. Spirit of life, bless us in our coming together this morning. Help us to honor our own unique paths which have brought us to this holy place. Help us to honor the lives and stories of each person we encounter today. Help us to share this precious world with them and to care for it. We have not created this earth, but we are part of it, part of the living divinity, the holy universe. And we are called to care for the beauty of creation, the beauty of the earth and of each other. Called to protect it and bless it with our prayers, our work, our play, our singing and dancing and digging. Called to protect each other with our commitment, our words, our bodies. Called to bless each other with forgiveness, patience, kindness, and peace. May our coming together this morning recommit us to this holy work of living. Amen. I invite you to continue the service with me as we recite responsive reading number 556, which is found in the back of your hymnals. 556 is by Ralph Waldo Emerson, These Roses. I'm switching it up. Let's have this side of the congregation begin with the bold words, and this side will continue in italics. These roses under my window make no reference to former roses or to better ones. They are for what they are. They exist with God today. There is no time to them. There is simply a rose. It is perfect in every moment of its existence. Before a leaf bud has burst, its whole life acts. In the full-blown flower there is no more. In the leafless root there is no less. Its nature is satisfied, and it satisfies nature in all moments of life. But we postpone or remember. We do not live in the present, but with reverted eye lament the past, or, heedless of the riches that surround us, stand on tiptoe to foresee the future. We cannot be happy or strong until we do live with nature in the present of all time. I was recently at an interfaith gathering where I endured some good-natured ribbing from my Christian colleagues. Noting the absence of any other Unitarian Universalists, one person wondered aloud if the group had done something to offend them. A retired Methodist minister chimed in, "Oh dear, I hope we didn't disparage Emerson or Thoreau during the last meeting." So it was with this interaction in mind that I joyfully chose that Ralph Waldo Emerson piece for our responsive reading this morning. These roses under my window make no reference to former roses or to better ones, Emerson says. They are for what they are. They exist with God today. In the full-blown flower there is no more. In the leafless root there is no less. We UUs get a bad rap for having no substance, no dogma to our faith, for having no consistent theology, for having discarded hell and being ambivalent about the existence of heaven, for revering Emerson a little too much and Jesus too little. Recently, on the Provincetown Community Space Facebook page, there has been a small kerfuffle about certain conversation threads being deleted for being too controversial, too outside the scope of the site, too offensive. And so one commenter posted that all that was left to talk about were puppies and rainbows. We Unitarians get accused of that as well. If we do not talk of sin or evil or damnation, are we just avoiding the hard topics in favor of puppies and rainbows? As with all stereotypes, I'm sure there is some truth to this. But as with all stereotypes, there is so much more to it. Today we celebrate the uniquely Unitarian Universalist ritual of flower communion. Now, focusing a ritual on flowers, I'm sure could be considered by skeptics to fall solidly into the puppies and rainbows camp. But I hope you will look deeper than that. There's so much more to it. True, we are using daisies and honeysuckle to get to the heart of it, rather than bread and wine. But there is an important message here, and that is this: you are beautiful. You are good. You are part of divine creation. Maybe some folks don't see this as a religious message, but I do. I don't see any more important message to be sending, any more important message to hear. A lot of people come to Unitarian Universalism scarred from their religious backgrounds. The resounding message they often carry with them from the churches of their childhood is that you are not good enough. You are sinful. There is something about you that makes you unworthy. Now, I know that the churches that some of us left were giving other messages. From Matthew and Luke, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. From Mark, love your neighbor as yourself. From Matthew again, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. But for so many, the message that was heard and received was not these, but that other one, the one about not being good enough. So yes, I think it is a religious message that we give today, a message that comes to life symbolically through flowers, that each of us is unique, that each of us is beautiful, that each of us is part of divine creation. And it was this message that a group of us took to the Latham School a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if you have heard of the Latham School in Brewster. It's a residential school for kids and young adults with various disabilities. A number of them have Prader-Willi syndrome, which is a disorder that causes them to be insatiable, eating everything in sight. Others have behavioral outbursts or need constant supervision. For all these reasons, going to church is not a possibility for these kids. They need a very controlled environment, but they love to worship. A staff member at the school visited a meeting of the Nauset Interfaith Association, of which Pastor Brenda and I are members. She told us about the kids and how they miss church, and asked us, ministers of all faiths, if we would bring church to them. Brenda and I just exchanged one look between us and raised our hands. Others followed. So a few weeks ago, the worship committee and a few others traveled with me to Brewster to lead a worship service with the kids at the Latham. We chose the topic of beauty. At first, they weren't sure about who we Unitarians were. One girl brought her Bible with her and was extremely relieved when Pastor Brenda finally read a passage from 1 Peter mid-service. But they were enchanted with our altar full of beautiful things. The seashells, the little glass Buddha, the picture of St. Francis, and especially the flowers. We brought tons of them. One young woman knew the names of each one. We talked about the beautiful flowers and other beautiful things we've seen. And then we passed around a little box with a mirror inside, asking each of them to look at the beautiful thing inside the box. We watched as each of them peered into the box, looking for something beautiful, and as they reacted to seeing their own reflection looking back at them, we sang, "How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful?" The kids received our message as a religious one. "You are beautiful," we said. "You are whole." They got it. I want to invite my helpers to come forward to bring the flowers to the people. I want to tell you what I forgot to tell you, which is to not forget the choir, but come to them last. As you receive a flower from our gathered bouquets this morning, take it as a reminder of this same message. You are beautiful. You are whole. You are part of divine creation. Let this message and this flower be the gift you receive from this community today. The gift that comes from our communion, our collective offering. Amen. And blessed be.